Moses was raised by Pharaoh's daughter, he always knew he was a Hebrew. As a young man, he left the confines of the palace and wandered among his people. He saw that the Hebrews were slaves. He saw the Egyptian overlords. One day he became so upset that when he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, he killed the Egyptian and buried him in the sand. Soon, everyone, it seemed, knew what he did, even Pharaoh, and so Moses ran. He ran away. He took up a whole new life in Midian. He married. He worked tending his father-in-law's flocks. And one day, out on the edge of the wilderness, at the foot of a mountain with many names, the mountain of God, Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, on that mountain, he saw a bush, alight with flames. And there, God called him. God told him one thing, just the next step. Go to Egypt. Go back to Egypt, and there God will set the people, God's people, Moses' people, free. Moses would meet God again on this same mountain, again for just the next step, to receive the Torah, the words that would guide the people, the words that would turn them again and again across the generations toward God and toward one another. Even though Moses was afraid of his past, of the future for his people, God meets him on the mountain, meets his fear, and guides him in his next faithful step. Now, generations later, the prophet Elijah fled to this same mountain. He had spoken against the king and queen, Ahab and Jezebel, for their idolatry and their injustice. He had challenged the prophets and priests of Baal to get Baal to light the fire for sacrifice. All day, Baal's priests prayed and nothing ever happened. I lost my sermon there. Okay. Nothing ever happened. But when it was Elijah's turn, he had the altar flooded with water. And then after a word of prayer, God lit the fire. It burnt the offering, the wood, the stones of the altar, even the water that lapped at its base. Then Elijah killed all the prophets. It wasn't pretty. And he ran. He ran away, afraid and discouraged. God sent ravens to feed him on his journey, a reminder that sometimes we just need a nap and a snack. And then God sent Elijah on his way to Mount Horeb, a journey of 40 days and 40 nights. He camped out on the mountain enduring a violent wind, an earthquake, and a fire. But when there was the sound of sheer silence, God spoke to Elijah. God met Elijah in his fear and discouragement, in his uncertainty about the future. God met his fear, and again, God says, here is the next step. Just the next step. Generations pass again, and this morning, Jesus is on the mountain, and with him are Peter, James, and John. And in the days leading up to this mountaintop experience, Jesus has been crushingly honest with the disciples and with himself. He told the disciples about what is to come, about how he will suffer and die. It was an awful truth, and he and Peter had a terrible fight about it. Jesus called him Satan, not so much like calling him a bad name as a confession that Jesus too was afraid for himself and for his friends, tempted to not take another step on this particular path. Still, he told the disciples that following him means you have to pick up your cross. What do you do next after that? And with that elephant sitting on their chest, there's 6 days of silence. And then Then they climbed the mountain. Moses, Elijah, Jesus, Peter, James, and John, each in their own time, each weighed down by their own fear for the future. And on this mountain, they hear the voice of God. Now, maybe this is too sci-fi, but the more I read this story, and we read it every year, the more I think that this is a moment outside of time. This isn't Moses and Elijah who have joined Jesus in first century Palestine, but that Jesus meets Moses in the ancient Sinai wilderness, and Jesus meets Elijah fleeing the southern kingdom's evil monarchs, and Jesus brings Peter, James, and John afraid for the future, and Jesus is there preparing to carry his own cross for the sake of the world. This moment is the present moment in their own time for everyone gathered. But there's one more party on the mountain. To make this a nice, lovely party of 7, the Bible likes that number, there's one more witness to Jesus' transfiguration. One more faith-filled person, unsure, afraid even of the future, straining to hear the voice of God, the call of God, hoping to be met by the faithfulness of God. One more witness. You. After all, you too know about the mountain, the cloud, the voice, the history, the timeline, the guest list. And so past, present, and future meet on this mountain to hear what is needed to speak truth to power, to hear what is needed to be faithful in the midst of trials, to live among God's people well, and to be encouraged even in the face of fear, even in the face of the cross. Past, present, and future meet on this mountain to be called into the next step, just the next step. God meets us here, saying, here is my beloved child. Listen to him. Okay, Jesus, you're on. And then Jesus, who is very God and truly human, says to us all, we who are afraid, we who are uncertain, we who desire to be faithful, Jesus says to us, here's the next step. Get up. Do not be afraid. We can get awfully tied up in the big, long roadmap of our lives. We can get awfully caught up trying to map out every single turn, but we have no way of knowing how everything is going to work out. We know that there will be harrowing moments on the way ahead. There will be griefs and regrets. It can be paralyzing trying to anticipate it all. When God met Moses on the mountain in the burning bush, there was just this next step. Go to Egypt. And when God met Elijah on the mountain, it was make this guy king here and this guy king there, and tell Elijah he's in the prophetic on-deck circle. And for the disciples, Jesus cautions them against telling about this moment lest they become overwhelmed again about the enormity of the journey before them. There is just get up and do not be afraid. All any of us can ever do is the next right thing, again and again and again. The poet Laura Martin suggests maybe the line is not so much do not fear, but do not stop at your fear. She says, let yourself remember that the end of a hard road is a new place, and you only go there by moving. Let me suggest one more thing about this story that matters. Moses, Elijah, Peter, James, John, Jesus, and you all have daunting futures ahead. But God has gathered us together. Peter is right when he says it is good for us to be here. Whatever comes next for each of them, for each of us. We have been gathered here and now. We each have our own road ahead, our own unique trials, our own particular crosses to bear. But God has shown us that we are not alone. This Sunday gathering is an awful lot like that Transfiguration Mountain. We gather in our own time, on our own timeline, among our own troubles and fears. But present at this table is the whole communion of saints, the faithful across time and place. And so whatever is to come, whatever next right step we are called to do, we are not alone. And so get up, beloved, and do not be afraid. Amen.